All right, so in this video, we're going to look at layout for our templates, and we're going to use a CSS framework, Bootstrap, in this video to do this. I assume that you come into these videos with a pretty good knowledge of CSS. So really what I'm going to hit here are just some specific things to keep in mind as you work with the CSS framework and WordPress templates. But there's just no way I can go over everything here. So to start using Bootstrap, all I need to do is copy a line of code into my head of my document. And if we come back and we look at our theme editor, I've gone ahead and copied header.php and footer.php from my parent template. And again, if we think about how our templates work, if I'm in, say, an archive template, the code here is just for the middle of the page. And all I do at the top is have a line that says, get the header and get the footer. And the reason that I do that is that if I make a change in my header, I only want to make a change in one file. Okay, I don't want to make a change over and over again, but I do have to think about how my pages are created from multiple files now. So if we come back to our header file and come to the end of my head element and paste in my link element and update the file, that's now going to take effect on every page on my site. And if I refresh, I can make sure that it took place. I see that my font changed, so I know that I'm good. And when I'm working like this, you can make mistakes really easily. So I like to make tiny changes, save it, make sure I didn't break something, basically. So I haven't broken something, we can keep going. If I'm using WordPress, the next thing I need to start working on is the structure of the page. So with Bootstrap, I know that I need a div class container around everything on my page. And if I inspect my page here and start looking at my structure, I can say, okay, I have a body and then I have a div class wrapper. That seems to me like it is doing exactly what I want my container to do. It contains everything. It's just called something different. So in my template, all I need to do is make this a container. And that should set me up to start writing my rows and columns. Okay, so I've got a container. I can see that it's pulling my Bootstrap code in. So now all of my content needs to be in rows and columns. And this is a good place to start thinking about that. So I have a header element, and I want that to be in a column that goes all the way across. So I'm going to create a row, div class row, and that row will end after the header. And I'm going to use a lot of notes to myself when I'm doing this, just because it's really easy to get confused when you're working in templates like this. So I've got a row, now I want my column. I want a div class equals call md 12. So a 12 is going to go all the way across, and again that will end right here. And I'll remind myself what I am closing. So if I update that file and refresh, not a whole lot's going to change, but I can just verify that things are looking good. So I've got a container, I've got a row, and I've got a column. So I think this is good. The other big thing that I'm going to run into is an example like this. So I've got an archive page where I'm going to be outputting a bunch of things one after another. And a lot of times I want that to be in a grid. Okay, so here it's a site with books on it. I probably want book, book, book. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. Then I'm going to pause it and walk you through the code. So I have my book archive, and this will be the code that controls all of this, okay, down through here. And I want that to go in a row, so I'll do that first. Something that you'll run into is sometimes as you're converting a theme like this, you have elements that you don't need. Like I don't need this main in this section. It's just going to make things simpler for us to learn if I get rid of those. So I'm going to get rid of those and then get rid of the closing tags. And I'll add a div class row here. And bring it down to the bottom of my template. And now I'm going to go ahead and pause this, set up my columns, and then we'll walk through it. Okay, so I had my row set up, and now I'm just going to go through the content that I have and put it in columns. So I had this header, this H1, and I just went ahead and put that in a col MD12. This is doing exactly what we did above, just reiterating. So now we have the interesting part where we have our loop. And this line of code says do this for everything that you give it, every piece of content. So here it's every book, right? So I'm going to say for every book, start by writing the beginning of my column. Okay, so start by having my opening col MD4. And then in this case, it's got everything wrapped in an article tag. That's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to come down here to where does my article end? And right after that, I'll put my closing div. Okay, so this closes my col MD4, and I updated my file, and we can look at what this looks like. So if we inspect it, we've got a row, a col MD12, and then we start our for loop, right? Or our while loop. And we've got a col MD4, and we close our column, a col MD4, and we close our column. And that would repeat as long as we had new books, and that would create our grid. So in the next video, we'll take a look at writing a little bit of custom CSS. Just remember that this is a process you need to go really slow for. You need to make a little change, check, make sure you haven't broken anything so that you can go back and fix it. But those are kind of the two main layout tasks that you'll have.